Hello guys, this is Oroth and a warm welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to talk about the legendary gem Mother's Lament, and I'm going to teach you how to calculate when it's viable to switch out Mother's Lament for a different gem, because Mother's Lament is one of the strongest gems for most players, but at some point it might be viable to replace it, and especially if you have a high ranked roiling consequence. But we can actually calculate exactly when that breakpoint is. And before diving into the details of this video, I urge you to please subscribe to my channel. I have told you before that if we manage to reach 10,000 subscribers, my girlfriend will treat me to something very special. So I really look forward to that. And if I deserve it, please subscribe. But let's move on to talk about today's topic. As I mentioned, Mother's Lament is one of the strongest legendary gems in the game, and for most players it's a must-have. But now I'm gonna calculate when it might be feasible to replace it. And what we have to do first is that we have to calculate our crit damage modifier. So here we can see a table where I have included all of the sources of critical hit chance that I have on my character. With a specific setup. Here we can first see what it looks like when I use the Mother's Lament. On my attribute screen I had 31% critical hit chance. I get 27% critical hit chance from a rank 4 roiling consequence. I get 32% critical hit chance from a rank 10 Mother's Lament. And I also get 4% critical hit chance from a rank 10 Spectre Glass. And of course, not all of these gems have an uptime of 100%, but now we're going to calculate when we are doing the initial burst phase against any target, and that's what we're going to compare. But we have to keep in mind that in the end we will make some conclusions, but yeah, not all gems are up all of the time, which also has a factor, of course. But anyways, let's move on. We can also look at my crit damage. Every character has 100% crit damage at base value, and if I go to my attribute screen I have 43.5% critical hit damage, and I also get 55% critical hit damage from armor penetration. So what I have to do now is that I have to calculate my crit damage modifier, and what I do then is that I take 94%, I multiply it by 199%, and then I add +1, and then my crit damage modifier is 2.8659. So now I know what my crit damage modifier is with this specific setup when I use a rank 10 Mother's Lament. What I have to do next is that I have to calculate my damage modifier from legendary gems. In this specific setup that we're looking at now, I have a Blood-Soaked Jade at rank 10, which gives me 24%. I have Bottled Hope at rank 10, which also gives me 24%. I have Berserker's Eye that gives me 16%. Fervent Fang that gives me 24%. And the Spectre Glass that gives me 28%. So in total, when all of these effects are active, I will gain 116% increased damage, which gives me a damage modifier of 116% plus 1, which is 2.16. Now I have the modifiers when I use Mother's Lament, but what I want to calculate is if it's wise for me to switch out Mother's Lament for Pain Clasp, for example. What I have to do then is that I have to do the exact same thing, but the difference is that I will replace Mother's Lament with Pain Clasp. So now when we look at my critical hit chance modifier, I have 31% from my attribute screen, I have 27% from Roiling Consequence at rank 4, but now I get 0% from Mother's Lament, and I still get 4% from Spectre Glass. And my crit damage looks the same. Previously, when I used Mother's Lament, my crit damage modifier was at 2.86, but now, without Mother's Lament, the crit modifier is at 2.23. And of course, then I also have to calculate my new damage modifier when I add Pain Clasp. We can see here that it looks exactly the same as it did before, but the difference is that we now get another 24% from Pain Clasp at rank 10, which gives me a total damage increase of 140%. And this gives me a damage modifier of 2.4. When I've done these calculations, what I will do is that I will calculate the combined modifiers. So first I take the crit damage modifier at 2.86 and I multiply it by 2.16, and then I get my combined modifier when I'm using Mother's Lament. And now I'm going to do the same for when I'm using Pain Clasp instead. So I take 2.23 and I multiply it by 2.4, and now I get a combined modifier with Pain Clasp that gives me 5.35. And when we compare these two, we can see that the combined modifier with Lament is higher than the combined modifier with Pain Clasp. This means that I should not replace the Mother's Lament for Pain Clasp. It will lower my damage. And of course, I already mentioned that Mother's Lament, for example, it doesn't have 100% uptime, and there might also be some gems that you want to replace that also has some other positive effects. You have to have a little bit of a feeling yourself as well. I would say that in this case I would definitely not switch out the Mother's Lament, but this will be a great pointer for when it's time to do so. If I were to conduct these calculations and I had a rank 10 Roiling Consequence instead of a rank 4 Roiling Consequence, the results would not be the same. And here we can see that with the rank 10 Roiling Consequence, all of a sudden I will get a higher combined modifier if I use the Pain Clasp compared to the Mother's Lament. And in that case, I should definitely replace the Mother's Lament. The calculations we have done so far already gives you a picture of when it might be feasible to replace Mother's Lament, but we can also make it even more complicated if we want to. In some cases, when you switch out legendary gems, you will also change your resonance, and when you are changing your resonance, it will affect your base damage. So what you could also do if you want to is that before you make a change, you can see what your base damage is, and then you can compare it with the base damage you have after you make a change. And if you take the new base damage and you divide it by your old base damage, then you will also get a base damage modifier. And this modifier you can also multiply with the combined modifiers that we have calculated earlier, and then we can compare the results after doing that as well. On top of that, there are also a lot of other minor details. There might be some gem resonance effects that you unlock when you swap out a specific gem, but yeah, it will not have too much of an effect, so let's not make it too complicated in this video. But if you are interested in how the damage formula works, I urge you to go and watch the Ultimate DPS Guide 2.0, where I explain exactly how damage is calculated, and I also introduced a certain build score system that you can use to evaluate your own setup. But with that being said, I hope that this video was helpful for you, and I want to wish you a very nice day or a very nice evening wherever you are. And to all of my clan members in Nyx, I would of course also like to say Voruk Nyx, Sholak Sol. So bye bye!